With the BCS season already in full swing, along with the new set releasing just a few weeks ago, we're going to analyze some decks. The good, the bad, and, well, not that. So join me as I cover a very popular deck that could see a bit of representation in these upcoming BCS events, Liael and her new Grade 3 Draconis. Before we begin, however, I ask that you leave a like on the video if you enjoy it and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos. Content has been sporadic, to say the least, so for those of you that tune in every time we come back for a video, thank you so much for the support. Also, if you want to, press that little hype button right here. Apparently it actually does help smaller channels in their videos. If you do, thank you so much, and if not, no worries, you're still the GOAT anyways, just for watching. Let's jump into it. Keter Sanctuary Liael's playstyle is to perform multi-attacks by binding your rearguards during the battle phase to superior call others from the deck. Doing this allows you to utilize your rearguards with specific on-play skills, or skills that activate when they are specifically bound. Phase 1 of Sacred Time, Liael Draconis, is their newest Grade 3, which has three skills. The first one grants her an extra drive check by paying a cost of 4 energy and binding a unit card from either your rearguard circle or drop, then forces you to discard a card after the cost is paid. This is good specifically for two reasons. The first being an extra drive is strong for any deck. Great commentary, Jack. And the second being for setting up a card in your bind zone to call a target from your deck with Liael's second skill. It also helps fulfill a certain cost of another card we'll talk about later. Also, keep in mind that this card effect is not part of the cost, meaning that if you are ever in a game state where you have no cards in your hand and you use Draconis' extra drive gain effect, you don't need to pay the discard to use the skill. Her second effect activates when she attacks a Vanguard. Paying a cost of Counterblast 1, you bind a rearguard on your board to call one from your deck who shares a name with any card in your bind zone. This is a really great upgrade from the old Liael, which could only call the same copy of a card that was bound. It also combines remarkably well with the first skill, allowing you to bind a card from your drop that you would want to call off the multi-attack skill despite not having one in hand or on board. Like the original Liael, this one has a Divine skill. At the end of the battle she attacked a Grade 3 or greater unit, you can superior ride another Liael from your soul or drop as stand but with only one drive check. This makes Liael's Persona Ride turn especially scary in combination with cards like Gabrielius, which can also perform a drive check, making for a 5 drive check turn. On top of that, since you're rewriting a new Liael, this means that when she attacks, you can still use her on attack skill again, generating another multi-attack, meaning that a Liael Divine skill turn at full power is 6 attacks with 5 drive checks when using Gabrielius, and scrying at least 1, maybe 2 cards when calling Gab as well. Now that we've discussed all the benefits of Liael Draconis, let's go over her ride line and what the support cards you can expect to see from Liael players and their decks. The Grade 1 of the ride line, Adorphus, when ridden by the Grade 2, pays a cost of Soul Blast 1 to draw 2 cards, then discards a normal unit from your hand. If it cannot be paid, they discard 2 cards instead. This is a stupidly easy ride line skill to achieve, since unless you are extremely unlucky, you will always have a normal unit in your hand to discard. And even if you were to discard something like an important attacker or Persona Ride, the Grade 2 can put those cards back into the deck for advantage. In fact, the only real thing to keep in mind with this card in how it can alter your game plan is the soul usage. Liael uses quite a lot of soul, so this is a card you have to keep in mind when accounting for how much soul you can use later on in the game. The Grade 2, Algenia, when rode upon by Liael, puts as many normal units as you want from your drop zone on the bottom of the deck, and then draws a card if at least 3 were chosen. This is a great advantage gaining Grade 2, not only putting back the card you potentially discarded off of Adorphus, but also putting back important pieces that you want to call for Liael, like PGs, if you use them early, Persona Rides, or Surgowns. Be careful not to put too many, since if you don't have a lot of ways to thin a bunch of cards from your deck later, you could just potentially be bricking up your deck and making it so you see less triggers. An important linchpin for your win condition in this deck is the Grade 3 Blessed Dragon Gabrielius. This card, when placed, allows you to Soul Blast 1 and scry the top card of your deck, and if you put it on the bottom of your deck, it gives himself an additional 5,000 power. The most important effect is that on attack while at 4 or more damage, if this unit was placed by a Faded One's ability this turn, he can give himself plus 10,000 power and the ability to perform a drive check if your rearguard has not drive checked this turn. This not only makes him a premier call target off Liael's Divine skill turn so that you can maximize your attacks and drive checks, but also provides a strong post-Divine skill turn as well, because otherwise Liael is only going to get 4 attacks with just triple drive. Before we get to Liael's newer support cards, we're going to talk about the main defensive play that Liael has going for her, especially in a format where we have a ton of powerhouses, that being her old form, Liael Immorta. Usually decks don't play their old grade 3 when their newer, shinier version of themselves come out, but Liael actually prefers it because of Immorta's guard skill. When put on the guarding circle, choose 2 of your bound cards and put them on the bottom of your deck along with discarding a card. You can prevent a faded one on your Vanguard circle from being hit for that battle. This means that with this, at 4 copies along with your standard Sentinels, Liael is playing with 8 PGs, which I don't think I have to tell you that's insane. The other strong part of this effect is that the cards in your bind zone are being put back into your deck, which means that you can recall them with your Vanguard Liael as long as you have another copy of that card you want to call in your bind zone. With this inclusion, Liael has an amazing matchup into the ride lines with annoying guard restricts, the most notable being Blangmire. But with all of these Liaels in your deck, how do you expect to find them? That leads us into one of our newer support cards, Knight of Brightblade Religiel, which pays a Soul Blast on call to look at top 7 cards of your deck for a Liael grade 3 card or a Gabuelius to put into your hand and then shuffles the deck. It also becomes a 15k attacker if you have a Liael Vanguard, or a 20k attacker if you have a Gabuelius on board or in your bind zone, making her a great beat stick later on. While this is an amazing search, keep in mind that you can only use the search effect while you are on a Liael Vanguard, so you cannot use this early. The other thing is that despite the abundance of search targets in your deck, it is possible to whiff with this effect, and if that happens you get no benefit for the soul that you just paid. The other new support card comes in set 10 with Draconis. Knight of Distant Bow Almov is a grade 1 that generates 1 energy in place of Rigor Circle, as long as you have a Liael Vanguard or reveal a Liael grade 3 in the ride line, which is good to make sure that the game doesn't get to a point where Liael won't be able to receive her extra drive, since her cost is 4 energy. Her second skill activates at the end of her boosting. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can shove it into your soul to give you, the player, the skill where all of your front row rear guards pick up 5k. While the requirement that your opponent has to be grade 3 or greater is a bit steep for my liking, this is a great skill. One, because it gives extra soul, which the deck is always appreciative of, and it gives the player red text, which means that the rear guards you call off Immorta will also receive the plus 5000 power. It's also not unheard of to use 2 of these in one turn, meaning that on top of potential Persona Ride, you can give 20k power to your rear guards, which is very nice. A few more notable cards to play in current Liael is her first triple rare, Sword Saint of Itinerant Idris, which gets plus 10,000 power if another copy of itself is bound, and when bound from Rigor Circle, you can pay a Soul Blast to draw a card and give your Liael Vanguard an additional 5,000 power. Another obvious one is Sergouge to give this deck a bit of early game pressure and deck filtering in the early game. Here are a few cards to consider in your personal list depending on your playstyle. The Ace unit, because of its early game pressure and ability to give one of your rearguards protection from retiring and being chosen, which is very notable in a format with Bavsargra and Virgila. Gragal, which can become a 13k booster if someone was called by your Liael ability, and can retire itself and a boost to countercharge 1. This can help depending on how much CB you tend to use in your playstyle. Sequence Wizard, which from turn 3 onwards can counterblast 1 on place to check top 5 cards of your deck and call one of them to Rigor Circle. And every time something bound by your Liael Vanguard's ability, you can give this unit 5,000 power and Soul Charge 1, which can help you get back a lot of the soul that is being used by your support cards. However, the Counterblast 1 is very rough in combination with the rest of your cards, so if you choose to use this, be sure to consider Gragal for your list as well. The positives of the Liael deck currently are extra drive check every single turn, a great / very scary Persona Ride Divine Skill turn, and it excels at defensive plays with having essentially 8 PGs. However, the negatives to Liael are decently resource intensive, falls off pretty hard after the Divine Skill turn, and low hand sizes at times because of its need to call rearguards to bind off Liael's skills, and the discard from Liael every single turn. Now that we're done talking about the current support EN has access to, let's go over the future support Liael receives in set 11 along with set 12. Liael's new triple rare in set 11 is a grade 2 called Knight of Severance Celevent, which gains boost if you have a Liael Vanguard, and when it's bound by the ability of your Liael Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 to call this card to a back row rearguard circle, and it is bound at the end of turn. This card is very mixed amongst Liael players since it has benefits and downsides. A few benefits being that it can help Liael herself be a threatening number instead of just a one-card guard by putting it behind your Vanguard. The second being how easy this card can be comboed in many different situations. You can call it in the early game for rush, and then bind it from rearguard off Liael to give it the extra drive, and then immediately call it back so you don't minus. You can also do the same thing from drop to turn Liael's skill into effectively a revive. You can combo it with Liael's on attack skill, bind it from your field after it has already boosted something to call something else from your deck, then use Sullivan's skill to call it back to the back row so that it can boost the called rearguard circle. There's a lot of versatility with this one effect. However, the downside is that that's all it does. It doesn't allow the deck to draw more cards, it doesn't actually have any early game skills, and it actually contributes more to the soul usage the deck already has trouble with. I would say you play this card at your own risk, but for players that are interested, I will showcase a list with it included so you can try it out as soon as set 11 comes out. The other card finally being released in English set 12 is the main reason why Liael has not been topping in English as of currently, and is the card that the entirety of Keter Sanctuary will need. The Nebula Knight's Path from the Starry Sea is a generic grade 3 order that can be played from drop for free by binding itself and allowing you to check top 7 cards of your deck to call one of them to rearguard circle, and you shovel the rest back. This is obviously busted for every Keter deck that doesn't utilize orders and relies on cards like Sargon, but it is especially relevant for Liael, which can sometimes struggle to find its important rearguard pieces to put on board, and because it binds itself, it can lead to more targets for Amorta to put back into deck for its PG effect. Until the order is finally released in set 12, the deck will not be at full power, so please keep that in mind if you're looking to build Liael in this or the set 11 format. I'm actually going to showcase 3 deck skeletons that you can use to model your Liael decks for these upcoming formats. The deck codes will be in the description, and feel free to change anything you want in the list, depending on your playstyle or your local meta. As with all deck skeletons, the heals are vanillas, and whatever counter heals go in are up to y'all. The first list is based on the current cards we have for set 10, using Topaz to act as a 20k shield or a way to refill our boards if things get dicey, and along with that, we utilize 3 copies of the double rare Benevolence Dragon, which can put itself into Soul when discarded during the fight phase or retired from Guardian Circle, which can help you pay for all the Soul Blast costs in this deck. Along with that, being a 15k attacker or 10k shield as long as you have a face-up bound card. Regalis Piece and OT choice are all the same for these 3 decks. Eidos Faro is the best OT in this deck in my opinion, since it can act as a 9th critical trigger and can add PGs, Personas, or even Amortas back to your hand to help survive future turns. And Fire Regalis helps with filling up the board and thinning the deck, same with Topaz. However, if you feel comfortable finding your pieces, you can always put Protection Twincast in the list as well. The second list replaces Benevolence Dragon with 3 copies of Celevant to increase the offensive power of the deck, otherwise there are no other changes. And the third list is one that incorporates the Nebula Knight's order post set 12. Keep in mind, we have no idea what the meta is still going to be yet post set 12, so make any future changes according to whatever's the best deck and whatever's best to counter it. And that's it for Liael Draconis. It's a deck that by all extensive purposes got amazing retrain and support to help bring it out of unplayable status, and it can definitely steal a few wins in a tournament. However, without the Nebula Knight's order in English, you have to get a really good day, or have a really good day, to win the rest of your games. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Liael in this format and this upcoming one. Is it going to be a deck that you'll take to BCS this year? Please let me know. And yeah, that's about it. Take care guys. I'll see y'all in the next one.